Hello, this is Coach John Joseph with the Mike Ferry Organization, and today's topic is closing skills. Let's start off with the basic premise from Mike Ferry about closing. Mike says closing is a natural ending to a good presentation. If we take that one step farther, a closing is a natural ending to a good presentation to a motivated buyer, seller, or prospect. Remember, unless they have motivation, a closing is going to be very, very difficult to do. One thing that I have learned from the Mike Ferry sales system over the years is that you have to earn the right to close. If you're jumping right to the close without understanding the client's motivation or the prospect's motivation, the close is going to be very difficult because you're fighting a battle that you don't even understand. For example, let's say you're prospecting, and the minute the prospect says, yeah, I was thinking about moving, and you immediately jump into a close like, well, if I could get you top dollar in the next 30 days, would it be worth 15 minutes of your time to meet with me? Well, hold on. You don't know anything about them. All you know is they said they're interested in moving. Do you know when? Do you know why? Do you know where? Unless you know those three things, where, when, and why, you don't know anything about their motivation. Yeah, they were thinking about moving a year from now. Really? Is that the type of client you're looking to prospect? Is that the type of client you want to have a listing appointment with? Of course not. Your job, no matter what, is to find motivated clients. And by motivated, I mean, where are they moving to? When are they moving? And why are they moving? If you don't know those three, there is no reason to close on a prospect. And let's take it one step further. If you're working now with a seller, if you booked a listing appointment, it's going to be very difficult to close on them unless you know they're actually pre-qualified and you understand their exact circumstances. So remember, the close is going to be extremely difficult. You're fighting an uphill battle unless you understand the client's motivation. Stop pretending you have a prospect. Stop pretending you have a qualified listing appointment unless you understand their motivation and they're actually pre-qualified to do something. Let's think about this. Mike always says you should always be sitting and only be sitting in front of somebody that is pre-qualified and motivated to do something now. If you're not, you have the biggest uphill battle, and chances are you'll never, ever get that contract signed. And if you are lucky enough to do it, guess what? It's going to cancel, or they're not going to give you the price that you really need. Alrighty. So what does it take to be a great closer? And what does it take? And what does it even mean to have great closing skills? So let's go through a series of thoughts from Mike. First, Mike says being a good closer is more about attitude, enthusiasm, confidence, and belief than it is about using strong words to intimidate the prospect. So what is your attitude about closing? What's your attitude about even showing up for a listing or a buying appointment? What level of enthusiasm do you have? What level of confidence are you displaying? See, it's not about the objection handlers. It's not about the closing lines that you have or that are super secret or really neat. It's not about those techniques or intimidating them or anything else. It's about having a closing that meets the client's needs that will help them to move forward. When you close on them, you're closing so that they can move on in their life, not because you've twisted their arm to do so. Mike says you shouldn't be afraid to be direct when asking for the signature. Doesn't really have to be difficult or hard. Okay, let's go back to that word that I've repeated time and time again. If they're motivated, at the end of your presentation, you should close because it's a natural ending to help them get to wherever they're going next. So don't be afraid to just ask for the signature. Mike says if you follow the listing presentation verbatim and you're sitting in front of a pre-qualified and motivated seller, the close should be simple. He says when you haven't pre-qualified them and don't know their motivation, it's going to be really hard to close them. And we've already said that. And that's all of a sudden where you have to bring in your super special closings and your super secret objection handlers. Listen, none of that stuff is required. What is required is a motivated and pre-qualified client. That's all that's required. Mike says that we should always assume that they're going to sign the contract at the end of the presentation. And you could make this assumption, especially when you're following the scripts, when you're smiling, and when you're staying on track and asking them a lot of questions. The script is designed to take the client down a path to help them get what they want. So since you already know their motivation, because you asked the questions when you're prospecting, since you've pre-qualified them and confirmed their motivation and understand their situation and even possibly some of their objections or questions, then when you get to the end of your listing presentation, all you need to do is smile and ask them to go ahead and sign the contract. Just make that assumption, but you can't make that assumption unless you followed the process. Understand that clients are going to give you a lot of no's. No, I don't want to sign now. No, I think we're going to have to think about it. Remember, the only no that counts is the last one before you quit. Not before they quit, but before you quit. Mike has always taught us that you need to close a minimum of 5 times, since 80% of all sales take place after the 5th close. Now, do you think if you're sitting in front of a motivated and pre-qualified client that it might take less time to close on them? Absolutely. But on average, it's about 5 times. Here's the question I have. Do you know 5 different closings? Do you know how to close 5 times? If you don't, talk to your coach about it. Understand, you have to believe in your own value as a salesperson to get the customer to believe in your value as a salesperson. See, when you believe in you, they'll believe in you, and the close becomes that much easier. See, as the value to the customer increases, the closing is pretty much just a snap. So I guess here's my question to you. What is your value to the client? What's your value to the customer? What's your value to the prospect? If I asked you, give me 3 pieces of value that you offer a seller, can you give them to me right now? Think about it. We don't want to hear honesty. I'm a hard worker because, listen, they weren't looking to hire a liar or someone that was lazy. So don't give us the mandatories. They're the basics. What makes you so different? As a good Mike Ferry agent, you should be saying, hey, Mr. Seller, I talk to 20, 30, 40, 50 people a day looking for a buyer for your home. How many other agents do you think say that, guys? So, do you know your own value as a salesperson? Can you tell me 3 reasons why a seller should hire you? Can you give me 3 reasons why a buyer should hire you? Heck, can you write out 3 reasons why a prospect should even book an appointment with you? You need to believe in your own value to get them to believe in your value, which will make your close easier. Mike always has taught us that a seller has us into their home for a reason. And it's our job and it's our responsibility to make a great presentation. And we do that by following the listing presentation script. Or if you're meeting with a buyer, following the buyer script. Because at the end of these scripts, at the end of these discussions, your job is to get the contract signed. And one other thing I want to talk about before we end this recording is you need to create urgency when asking them to sign a contract. Since they had you out to their house for a reason and they want to get moved to wherever, that has to become the urgent reason why they need to sign now, because any delay can possibly affect their chances of getting their home sold and getting moved on to the next place. I hope this information has helped you today, and I look forward to talking to you on another installment of The Vault.